Welcome to Old Stuff Show. Today we're visiting the Woodland Cemetery in London, Ontario, founded in 1879. The purpose here today is to look at old, look at unique, and not necessarily cover the whole cemetery. We're talking here about old families, old tombstones, and in an old cemetery. And so what we'll do is we'll pick out a few highlights. This cemetery, like a lot of old cemeteries, moved out of the city limits in the 1879 time period, set up as an interesting cemetery with meandering roads and like a Victorian garden. That was part of the purpose in those days. When you look around these cemeteries, the tombstones are very Victorian. It also notes that more money, bigger the tombstone, but also very religious themes with the draped urns, and you can see that in many of these tombstones. So we'll go in and look around and see if we can come up with something a little unusual. These obelisks are quite impressive, and as I say, the families with some wealth could afford to have things like that. Quite impressive. Perhaps that was part of the Victorian psyche, to impress people. The draped urns, again, a very common feature on some of these stones. And when you're in the middle of the cemetery, you tend to be in the heart of the old cemetery, and I suppose like a city, it grows outward with suburbs. But you'll find the oldest families buried somewhat in the more central part of the cemetery. Now, the really old pioneer cemeteries with the sandstone tombstones, they didn't last too long as far as the inscriptions and that. Moved from marble to granite. So a lot of these are quite clear in their message and their information. Aside from very impressive monuments like this, some of these well-established families would have family plots, and names would be on the tombstone. In this case, it's the Meredith family, but at the same time, there would be plaques on the ground indicating where individual members of the family had been buried. Family plots was a way of keeping the family together and continuity and importance for future generations. Cemetery came a long way from these early sandstone tombstones, very simple, to something like this one here with a very ornate figure at the top. Very impressive. Another good example of a family plot with the accentuated circular curb that goes right around. Victorians were very aware of privacy, I suppose, in some ways. There's lots of creativity in this particular stone. Looks like this was added on to an original base, and circular area that contains the names of family members. So my community, London, Ontario, is synonymous with well-known names like Labatt. This is the family plot of the Labatt family, who started a brewery in the middle of the 19th century and still operating today as one of the biggest breweries in the country. And again, the central tombstone with all the names of the family over the years, and then the family plot surrounded by individual markers that designate the burial place of each member. So this one goes back to the 1860s at least, and something very well known in this area, as I mentioned. Interesting also is the area where the crypts are located. Again, possibly for privacy of family. They can afford to have something like this. It's impressive. Maybe all of those reasons together. But there aren't that many here, but the ones that are here certainly are interesting and they stand out. Here's another more impressive mausoleum crypt in the cemetery. This is Annie Pixley Fulford, who made a name for herself in Hollywood from this community, and decided family has her remains here, and stands out, probably the biggest monument in the cemetery. So that was Annie Pixley Fulford. This fits into the category of a little different and unusual. It's cement made up to look like a log. So we've seen a lot of creativity in the old, and I couldn't resist showing you this creative epitaph for the new. We would rather be at the beach. Kind of says it all, doesn't it? We'll move on now to Mount Pleasant Cemetery. So here we are at one of the tombstones of a Victoria disaster victim. As you can see, it says here, drowned by the foundering of the steamer Victoria, May 24th, 1881, age 26 years. One of 181 people. This cemetery has many of these people. I haven't bumped into more at the moment, but that's one example of that disaster. So we'll continue to look at various interesting stones. And I can see one coming up here, stone linked, which is creative and interesting, unusual. So two people perhaps that died at the same time, linked forever with their tombstone. This cemetery also has some very impressive monuments. Someone has made a very large statement here for their family. Very interesting. So this is very unique. It's a tombstone to fallen firemen in this community, and some of it goes back quite a ways. This one on this side is dated April 18th, 1873. Died from an explosion at the tannery here in this community. And then on this side, it's even older, I believe it's 1855, and don't see the cause of death, but anyways, very impressive. Very large stone here, again related to prominence and wealth in the community. This one is McClary, John McClary, whose fame was McClary stoves and appliances made here in this community and sold across Canada for sure. Quite a dominant theme here, and beautiful tombstone, family plot, very impressive. Another unusual design, tree log motif. It reminds me of the Woodman of the World stone that's somewhere also in this cemetery. But certainly we've seen in both cemeteries a great deal of creativity and impressive memories that have been created. So taking a tour through cemeteries. Cemeteries are also a place for the living to learn and enjoy the surroundings. So that would be it for us. The two cemeteries have taught me a lot myself. Some of these I haven't seen before, so I hope you enjoyed the tour and learned something as well. So we'll say goodbye for today, and just remember, if you can subscribe, that would be great. I'm also on YouTube with other videos. Closing in on 40 now. You might want to have a look. Also, I'm on Instagram under Old Stuff Show, and also eBay, which will be mentioned at the end of this program. So that'll be it for today. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye for now.